everyone! Tonight we're going to paint a fall doormat. This one is going to be the plaid pumpkin, and I use some vinyl that is the stencil vinyl. It's the 813, I believe. I'll put the details in the credits or in the top section. What I like to do is, I don't have a cutter that will enable me to be able to cut it all in one sheet. I use an 18 by 30 mat, and then I piece together my my stencils in order for the layout of the actual doormat itself. So here you'll see that I am removing the backing from the stencil vinyl. This specific design will be available in my Etsy shop if you are interested. I'll put that link on here as well. And you just have to be careful not to lift any of the design up because with this specific one, you'll see that I do a section at a time. That enables me to change my colors up and organize it that way. So I'm going to lay down the vinyl on the doormat and position it out. I usually eyeball it. I really don't measure it out. What I do is when I design it on my Silhouette software, I actually put it to scale whenever I'm designing it, so then I know already like where the layout's supposed to be. I press it down onto the doormat itself, and I use a squeegee in order to do that. I eyeball, make sure that it's on straight, especially the words. And then I remove the transfer tape, again trying not to remove any of the design vinyl yet, in order to keep that on there, because you'll see that we are going to do it piece by piece. So I like to take painter's tape and actually put it down on top of the vinyl in order to keep it from lifting too much. You'll see that I will tape that down on the sides, making sure that I don't cover up any of the sections that need to be painted. I do that because this vinyl doesn't stick completely. Because of course the core on the core, I think it's like coconut hairs, it just doesn't allow it to stick 100%. So in order to just give myself that little bit of assurance, I make sure that I tape it down. I also like to tape around where none of the paint will get on the mat where it shouldn't be, because nothing can ruin a design or a paint job faster than paint being spilt in a place that it shouldn't be. So here then I'm going to go ahead and remove the transfer tape from the Happy Fall Y'all. On this specific design, I created it where the middle parts are still connected. So after we remove the vinyl the stencil from the mat itself, we'll have to fill in a little bit, like where that A on the A is, and on the P. And that's just to make it easier with your letters so they're not lifting, because it does lift so easily on the doormats itself. So here, okay, so I've done all that. I've removed that. I'm going to tape and secure this section down. I pat it down, making sure that it's as flat as it's going to be. And tape it down there. And then up on top, and the sides, just to make sure that I don't get any of the paint where it doesn't belong. Okay, so now we're ready to paint. I use Folk Art multi-surface paint. What's great about this multi-surface paint is it has a sealant already in it. I use this paint for doormats. I do not use them for my door hangers. Just reason being is as it dries on the door hangers, it actually becomes kind of stringy, and it just doesn't give it that nice matte finish that the regular paint allows it to do. But I do like using this multi-surface paint because it has that sealant, so then I don't have to spray it before I send it out to my customers or clients, because that sealant will also, it could possibly track dirt, attract it whenever it's on that mat. So because it could make it kind of sticky in certain weather, and so I rather just use this paint where it's just the paint that has that sealant in it, and I don't have to do anything extra. So I just do the dab motion just with my stencil brush. I really don't have a favorite brand. I do like the larger brushes for the lettering. If you use a brush that is thinner than what your letters are, it's a risk that you're going to get some paint underneath. So I like to just, even if it looks like you're using way too much, I like to be able to just do basically one round of it, instead of having to go back and do several layers, several coats. So here I'm very generous when I use my paint on this, but it seems to work. This part can be very therapeutic. I really enjoy painting the doormats. It's that up and down motion. You really just get to breathe through it. I generally put TV shows on or something I've already seen. I like Disney. I like Beauty and the Beast. Sometimes I sing along. Unfortunately, Facebook won't allow me to do that today. So today you just get this where I just have to speak through it. Some of you may be happy about that because you don't know how I sound singing, but hey, whatever. Anyway, but I do like to put just relaxing stuff on just for sound purposes, just to relax me, because that's generally what I really, really love about this art, this craft that I get to do for people. It's just, I like it to be enjoyable and peaceful. So this one, I believe, is the licorice black. They have several different colors, black. This one just kind of pops more for me on the mats, but it's just to your liking and your choosing. Sometimes it may feel like you get too much paint on your brushes. If you find that happening, it's totally okay to go ahead and put that brush in some water and grab a new brush. You want to feel like you still have control when it comes to having that too much paint on there. And you'll see me rolling some of the paint off of it because it just accumulates so much, because I am, like I said, very generous with it. So I roll off some of it back onto I use the painter's tape lid. to put my paint on. It just allows me to utilize something that I already have, because I do use the painter's tape quite a bit. This particular design is the one plaid pumpkin in the center and then the 2 orange on the side. There's another design that has a family of 4 pumpkins, and one is polka dot, the other is plaid, and the other 2 are regular orange. I've also had clients ask for more traditional colors, so I've done all orange pumpkins, but I varied the colors of the pumpkins. So like of course the older pumpkin had maybe a deeper cinnamon color to it, and then of course the young little pumpkins were the brightest, with nice highlights. I'll try to attach some of those pictures as well. What's great is I love being able to customize these for my customers. Okay, so here I got some black on it. I'm going to trim really lightly just the edge in order to remove it. I find that it's best to wait. Sometimes I get impatient. You'll see that it's still there a little bit and I'm messing with it. What I'll do is I'll let it completely dry, and that's what's the best thing to do, is let it completely dry overnight and then trim it, because then it won't smear into the core of the mat. So you'll see that that's there. It's going to be there a little bit, but I will correct it in the morning after it dries completely. I'll be able to get in there and clear that up. So here I'm going to remove the actual stems and leaves section for each of my pumpkins, and I use like still the multi-surface paint. The one I'm going to use is a green, the classic green, and then I'm going to highlight it with it's called Happy Green, and then some white. And basically, just like you do with your, oh, there we go. I have to be careful. Put that back down where it needs to be. You have to make sure that when you're painting, you're generally going to be painting it just like you do on your door hangers with your accents. You want to highlight from the top, add some lowlights to the bottom if you desire. I'm not going to today with the lowlights. I'm going to just strictly do it with the highlighting on the top. I think that'll be sufficient. But again, I'm going to be using the classic green. I'll be painting one of these live in the next couple of days. I'm setting up a backdrop to get everything prepared for that, because I want it to look nice. Because right now my workshop is just the garage, so I want to go ahead and I'm putting a backdrop to kind of liven up the backing so it looks better for everybody. But here again, I'm using classic green and I'm doing the up and down motion, just using the stencil and relaxing while I do it. I like, like I said, Disney, but also like I'm one of those that I really love the crime shows. So like I love what is that called? Special Victims Unit, SVU, with Olivia Benson. The good guys come out on top most of the time. So I just listen to that, and I probably could quote the entire lifetime of their seasons for most of their shows. But that's one of my favorites. I also like true crime. Just a little trivia about me while I'm painting the mat. You'll see that I push down every now and then. That movement back and forth is just to make sure that I'm getting into the background of that, because if I can see too much of the core mat underneath, it's not going to give it a really good viewing. Like if you're standing above it, just imagine what you want it to look like when someone walks up to your front door. You want them to be able to see the beautiful color of the painting of the mat, but you don't want too much paint on there, because it will crack too if you just gob on way too much. That's why when I ship these, I no longer roll them. I used to roll them. If it's just a black worded mat, I will roll them, because that one's more simple. But the more paint that you put on it, the less you want to roll it. You want to go ahead and mail it flat. So I have some industrial strength bags that I purchased off of Amazon that I slide them into, and they seem to do very well that way. So it doesn't ruin the mat before it gets to the location of the customer. I sell these on Etsy. I also do sell them locally. I've built relationships with a couple of lovely realtors in my area, and so I'll get a message every now and then saying, hey, I have a closing, can you put this together for me? And it's usually more traditional mats with more names, more an address. But this one here was inspired by Tamara Bennett from Southern Adornments. Her Happy Fall, y'all design for the door hanger. She challenged me to create a mat for her. So I kind of took what she had and I broke it up into, okay, so how can I put this on a mat? So that's where this came from. So she is phenomenal with her designs. I'm a member of her Paint to Profit. I'm also a member of her template group. I can't say enough good things about her and her organization. She's very supportive and inspirational, and she just keeps me going. So if you haven't heard of her, it's Tamara Bennett, and she's out of Kentucky, I believe, and she's just amazing. She's fun to watch, and very sweet to spend some time with. So if you haven't checked her out, you should. I'll put her link on the post as well. So here I just went to my second pumpkin, and I'm also doing the same exact thing with the classic green. Just that same dabbing motion. It's kind of therapeutic to me. I love it whenever I'm able to fill in a certain section with a full color. It's satisfying. It's crazy to say, but it is satisfying. So here I rolled out, there's a middle section where I was able to just roll it out in the middle of that area, like I had done with the black, where I can get some of that paint off of the paintbrush itself, in order to utilize as much as I can and to make it feel more controlled for me. Almost done with the green, the classic green. I also have the same design where the stencil, instead of using a plaid, you can use, of course, the polka dots, and then I also have the chevron. Those are really fun. to use as well. What's great is you can be creative, where if you wanted to create one of these with pink pumpkins, since this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month as well, you could do some pink pumpkins, different colors of pink. There's some really fun, bright pink colors in the folk art line multi-surface that you could use with white polka dots. I think that'd be really super cute. Some chevron with maybe an opaque pink and white. Just anything fun like that would be fun if you have a friend of yours or a client that is a survivor or is right now fighting for their lives with breast cancer. So here I'm going to go ahead and start using it's called Happy Green, and I'm going to do some highlights. I changed my brush out to a smaller brush size. It's hard to say what brush size because all of them have different sizing, all the brands, but it's more of a medium size, because if I use the same large size, then it would give me too much highlight and I would cover up all my classic green. So what I do is I highlight the sections and in the direction of where I would imagine sunlight hitting the top of the leaves and the stem, and I'll do that for all three of these here. And then after I do the Happy Green, I'm also going to add a little bit of white to it, just to give it that little bit more of a pop than what the Happy Green is going to provide. I like doing it as it is still wet because it will blend better. It's not perfect. I'm still getting to know the blending process. So doing the best I can that way. But I don't even change brushes from the Happy Green to the white. I'll use the same one because I want it to blend in and give us that highlight of the leaves and allow it to come to life that way. And I'm sure there's other ways that people can paint these. This is just what works for me. I've, started trying to think outside the box, trying to think about different things to try. I didn't recently start the blending until, maybe 2-3 months ago. Otherwise, I was doing just regular, basic, straightforward colors, which gives you a 2D effect, which is fine, but I wanted to add that little something extra that other people on Etsy aren't, because that's helped me be able to get that customer that'd be like, okay, that catches my eye, that's really interesting, or that's a really fun design. So here I'm applying a little bit of white. Just right on top of the highlight area. Blend it in a little bit. Get a little bit more white. And like I said before, sometimes I'll take a deeper green and do on the bottom sides of the leaves to give it that little extra. But tonight I'm not going to use that. Tonight I'm just going to do highlights. I think the classic green is fun, and we'll just use that. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and take off the stencil area for the orange pumpkins. And I use just a basic bright orange. You'll see that I put down some neon orange, and I said, nope, no, I don't want it neon. I've tried one of those, and it's not as pretty as your bright orange. So I'm going to change over. I'm just going to put this palette to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and get a new lid and just use the bright orange. So now that I'm going to be working with an area that has two different wet colors touching, I'm going to use two different brushes. I'm going to have the regular brush that you normally use. It's a filbert brush. Now, once you use it on a mat, it kind of frays out the tip. So you won't be able to use this whenever you're using or painting a door hanger, because the core doormat, or the core of the mat, actually will fray out the tip of your filbert brush. So you'll want to just utilize that for your doormats. But first I use a stencil brush to do the larger areas, and I try to get as close as possible to the color of the green, in this instance the green. But what then I'm going to do is I'm going to then take my filbert brush, because it's a little more narrow, and I will utilize that in order to get in there closer where I don't smear the green. Now, if you wanted to wait and let the green dry in between, that's up to you. It does take a little bit of time, because I would say even with a hairdryer, you're going to have some of that underlying green that's going to be wet, or paint that's going to be wet. So if you wait, I would wait at least 3 to 6 hours for the purpose of just trying to knock out stuff. I'll just use the filbert brush and be able to get into the little areas just to tidy it up a bit. So like I said, here you'll see that I'm just using my regular stencil brush, and I am just painting in and dabbing in all that orange, that pretty orange. I'm then going to highlight with a yellow orange and some white on these pumpkins as well, to show the curves of the pumpkins, and then highlight the tops of the pumpkins as if sunlight were shining down on it, just like I did with the leaves on the pumpkin stem. This particular mat takes a little bit longer than I normally take on other mats, simply because there's a lot more to it as far as the color wise. And then when you see the technique that I use in order to do the plaid, I'm not a great eyeballer for plaid. Like I need some help, so I use a stencil to help me out, to get me started, and then I eyeball it from there. Some of you may be able to do it without the stencil, but I will link up in my Etsy. It'll be the link for the stencil, one that is disposable, so it's a one-time use. And then I'm also going to be selling a reusable set of, it'll be chevron, polka dots, and plaid options that you can use and reuse it. It's Mylar 7.5 is the thickness, and it I cut it with my laser cutter, and it's durable. You can rinse it and take care of it. But you see here, I'm getting in closer to the leaves. And what's great is if you get in and you get a little bit of green on your brush, it's okay. This art process is forgiving. You kind of just blend it in, maybe a little bit darker right there. Now, what wouldn't work is if it was like black and white, and you touch the black. That wouldn't work. That's not as forgiving. So here I'm just touching up the orange, making sure I get in there with my filbert brush. But as you can see, it's starting to come to life a little bit. So now I'm going to use some of the lighter, it's like a yellow orange, and I'm going to use my brush, and I'm going to start giving it some highlight, give it some dimension. Of course, the lighter the paint that you use here, the more identifying features that you'll be able to see. On the stencil itself, you can see where the curvature of each part of the pumpkin begins, and you just kind of follow that up with your eye. And then you take that brush and you go up all the way to the green part of the leaves, and you'll start seeing more and more of the dimension come to life as the more you add to it. The lighting, it's okay, but it might be a little bit hard to see as to how much I'm putting on there. I'll do a closer picture and attach it so you can see what the finished product looks like in better lighting. But you see here how, since the orange is still wet, it's able to really tie in there and blend. That's the fun part for me, is being able to blend that up and give that some life. So then now I'm going to go and start putting some white in there, and you can really see it pop a lot more. Now you see that it's starting to look rounded on the top. Give it that nice rounded dimension of a pumpkin. Now I'm going to do the second one. Sometimes it's too bright, so I try to blend it a little further, deeper into the pumpkin itself. Or the orange color, not the pumpkin, but the orange color. And I like giving it some life, and again around the curvature of the where the curves would be. It's where I like to highlight it. All the way down the side. Gotta give this one a little bit more love with my paint. So now I'm ready to do the plaid part of the middle pumpkin. Now on this one, I made this stencil where it has a slight gap. I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. Where I can do it flush up against the greenery. So what I have is I actually have where it's not, the stencil's not a plaid stencil, it's squares. But it is set up to where the squares are separated, where what I would do, and what I do is I paint the square open areas black, and then each area above, below, and to the right and left of that black will be gray. And then the other spots that are still empty would be the white. So here I am, I'm just weeding out the squares itself. It just gives me a little bit of help making sure that I'm staying straight, because I try to eyeball it, and I'm sure as I grow and get better at it, I won't have to use something like this, but this generally does help in what I'm doing. And so in the stencils that I offer in my Etsy shop, it'll offer these squares, the chevron design, as well as the polka dots. And you can either be in this stencil here that's disposable, also sticky, or you can use the stencil that is reusable, which would work just fine with this. That's actually, I'm going to have some of that cut and ready when I do my live, when I do my own personal doormat, because I have a Texas one. I'm from San Antonio, well, Cibolo, right outside of San Antonio, and so I have a Texas doormat right now, but I need to update that because I tend to take care of everyone else, my clients and my customers, and I never take care of my own front porch. So this year, I'm actually trying to do something to decorate it out. But as you see, I laid it down, and I'm going to straighten it out a little bit. So wherever you see an empty spot that does not have any paint on it yet, I'm going to paint that black. And that's going to be my starting features of my plaid pumpkin. So I'm going to get my black again. It's the same black that I used for the Happy Fall, y'all. And I'm just going to go like I normally did, and just the pouncing motion with my stencil brush. And fill it in. These squares aren't perfect squares. It's meant to be a plaid look. It's meant to have that farmhousey, chic, not perfect look. So they're not perfect like squares. But if you're cutting your own vinyl and you want to do it, with perfect squares, you create a square and you duplicate and you can make your own vinyl to work just like this. So I just have to pay attention and make sure that I'm not going to paint any of the green black and any extra spaces that aren't supposed to be. Black that aren't supposed to be black. Black. And again, you may be able to eyeball it, and that's fantastic. It saves time if you can. That's just not one of my strong points with being able to do eyeballing straight lines like that when I'm dealing with plaid. So this is how I do it. Still feeling very therapeutic. And just enjoyable. And it feels so good when you finish getting all the color in that one section. I'm a person with anxiety. I fight it every day. Have PTSD, and I use this as a moment in time to just free myself of all of the stuff that life can throw at you. And I honestly feel that painting has saved me. It allows me to express my inner art love, the love of art, the love of color. I'm a big color girl. Like, I'm sad when someone says, I just want black on my doormat. But it allows me to just take a moment and step out of life and put my passion on a doormat, which if you would have asked me 5 years ago, or I'm not asking you, but if you would have told me 5 years ago that I was going to be painting doormats, I would have laughed at you. Who's going to paint a doormat? You buy those at Lowe's that have pretty pictures on them already. But this, I don't know, this really is more personal. It's more fun. And this is the real fun part right here, because then you get to see all of your labor come to life right there. So we're not done yet. We've got to fill in up on the top with the lettering where the little gaps are with your black. And then we're going to finish up the plaid part with the grays and the white on the pumpkin itself. So here I'm going to fill in those little gaps. But anyway, I really, really, really love painting, and Tamara has really helped me become more confident in what I'm doing, because I actually started out not having a clue. But once I got the paintbrush in my hand, and I had already been using Silhouette software forever and a day. I went ahead and made some stencils, and the rest of is history. Now I dabble with, I have a glow forge that I cut acrylic and wood and make designs that way. I'm working on ornament designs now. Just a little bit of anything and everything. And then I'm going to try some of that yard art. That's so exciting. I'm so excited. I already have the block posters printed out. Just got to cut and start painting and add lots of glitter. I'm a glitter girl. I love glitter. If I could put glitter on a doormat, I would just totally love it, but I just don't, it won't go. It just doesn't work. But glitter all the way. Anything that embellishes, I'm totally there. So this is a gray paint that I'm adding to this now. What this is just to give it that secondary shade. And remember, I add it to the top, bottom, left, and right. So I make it like a plus sign. Now, of course, in my mind's eye, I have to still imagine what that pumpkin outline looks like. So I just have to keep that part in mind as I am bringing out all these colors and shape. So I want to make sure I keep the rounded edges of the pumpkin. Make sure that I keep the rounded edges, so it still looks like a pumpkin. So when I say a plus sign, I'll go out as far, like on that right there. I went out as far as I put in my mind's eye of what I envisioned that the pumpkin rounded part would be. And here with the same piece too, I don't want to extend out a full block because that's not the shape of the pumpkin. So just keep that in mind as you're going through. But as you can see, your mat's coming to life. You got your little pumpkins, you have your happy fall, y'all. And so now you're just finishing up with your plaid, which is like it's the focal point, the showstopper, the wow part of your mat. Because as we all know, plaid's in. I've designed a couple of mats for Christmas with plaid Christmas trees. I think they're going to be really cute on a mat. I'll do that within the next few weeks, probably right after Halloween. Do some of those. I might introduce them sooner, so if people want to buy those designs as well, they can, or the cutouts. And what's great is if you buy the reusable stencils, you can use them on anything. Meaning they're going to be a full, I believe it's a 12 by 17 sheet of Mylar. So you can reuse those. So if your underlying stencil is a Christmas tree, you just paint the inside parts of the Christmas tree. So you'll be able to reutilize that Mylar stencil. If you buy the disposable, then of course it doesn't work that way, because lifting it up, because it sticks to everything, you wouldn't be able to keep it. As you see, I'm getting in close to that green area. Since we've been painting a while, it's starting to solidify a little bit, so it's less chance of it actually trying to blend with your gray, the green. So it's less to worry about. But as you can see, I eyeball it as far as connecting, like making another square. So I joined the black squares with a black to make a plus sign. So this gives us that plaid effect. If you wanted a lighter gray, you're welcome to use that. If you wanted a lighter option, I had this color on hand, so that's what I used. But you're welcome to use a lighter gray to have a different view of it, perspective. And again here, I'm just making note as to the curvature of the pumpkin on the bottom. Just try to maintain that. Thanks for sticking around this long. I know it takes a while to get done, and it can be monotonous. Hope you got to know me a little bit today. I love art. I love glitter. I love painting. And I love sharing the love of what I do, and the fact that it's therapy for me. This is total therapeutic livelihood for me. You can, some questions that I get often, I'll go over real quick. Where to get mats. Normally, I get them from Home Depot. Home Depot has actually been out for a while. I don't know if they have them in again yet. Target saved the day. I was able to order 75 of them to keep on hand. I have a couple of classes that I want to do with some teachers. They reached out and they want to paint a few doormats, so we're gonna have those parties and basically conduct those just like you would a door hanger party, with the design, and then you kind of walk them through it and let them paint. But Target definitely saved me recently. I'm actually looking into becoming a distributor for the mats. I will let y'all know a little more later if I'm able to seal the deal on those, where I could possibly sell them. The only thing is the shipping. What's holding me back is the shipping cost for each mat. They're 6 pounds and they're awkward to be able to ship, and so they can become expensive. So I'm trying to get a better deal with either UPS or US Postal Service in order to offer better shipping rates for the actual mat itself. I've thought about doing like a mat of the month club where you can paint it or you can purchase it already painted, depending on which kit you would like, which would then help pay for the shipping. Like I would include it within the cost of the kit. So if anyone's interested in possibly doing that, or even a design of the month club with mats, I'm trying to just brainstorm and get that part of my venue going. I'm adding an earring line with my Glowforge, I'm able to cut acrylics and wood. Thought about even paint your own earrings. I thought that might be fun. Send the paint with it in a little kit, like, oh, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 different earring shapes and different paints with metallics and foils and whatnot. But doing some kits that way, I think that would be a lot of fun. Ornament painting for kids, it's another option. So here I'm just continuously, filling in the gray. Thanks for sticking with me this long. And here I'm keeping in mind the shape of the pumpkin as I get to the edge again. Make sure I keep that curvature of the pumpkin. I know it looks kind of dark right now, but as you go and you add the white, you'll see that it's going to pop a lot better. And like I said, if you want to use a lighter gray, you're welcome to do so. This at least shows the technique on how to get the colors and the shadowing in the map. Here I'm just touching up some of the gray, making sure that it's all filled in. You don't see a lot of the doormat underneath the paint. So we're going to put the gray aside, and we're going to start putting in the white. Just taking into account that the paint is wet, so it's going to blend a little bit, and that's okay. So now I'm starting to add that white. Just continuing with the shape, the curvature of the pumpkin around the side. And I fill it in. Here I'm just trying to be careful not to blend in too much green with the white. Make sure that white stays bright so it allows the plaid to pop. We're almost done. Thank you for your patience. So glad you're here. Once I'm done with the filling in the squares, I'm going to add some curves, just like in the small pumpkins. I'm going to add some lighting and highlights, just like I did, but just with the white paint. And then I'm going to actually just naturally blend it in as I go and make the curvature of the pumpkin itself. Just that same simple dab up and down motion. Just adding the color in. Squares are definitely not perfect. But it makes it into a happy little pumpkin. Please let me know if you have enjoyed watching and seeing this technique. I can totally do more. I'll be doing a live in a couple days to show the chevron and the polka dots, maybe the plaid too. But thank you for joining me on Crushing on a Vinyl. I really enjoyed sharing this technique with you. I hope you can add it to your arsenal of goodies that you offer for your clients. And your customers. Now, if just to add right here, you see how I'm adding all the curvature and the shading. If you want to just leave it, just the plain plaid, the 2D plaid, you totally can. That's totally up to you. You don't have to add the curves like I do here. It's totally your option. That's what's so lovely about painting. It's what you want out of it. But anyway, so thank you for joining me on Crushing on Vinyl. Hope you enjoyed this technique. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to be able to share some information with you. And I will, like I said, I'll be adding links to my Etsy shop, where if you want to get this design and you cut it on your own, with your own cutter, or if you would like to buy stencils, I can get those shipped out to you right away, so you can utilize that for Halloween and the fall as well. So thanks again, and I'll just let this finish up, and just wish y'all a really, really good night, and thanks for your patience and sticking around and getting to know me a little bit. I'll talk to you soon.